I think you've summed it up quite correctly there, and so important that, you know, on this day, as the EFF actually reflects on Land Reclamation Day, like you've correctly explained it. For those who don't know, that centuries ago, this is when Jan van Riebeeck had actually arrived, you know, in the country, and you actually juxtapose it to what's actually happening right now, the misinformation that is being peddled about the country, about how certain minority groups are actually treated, and of course you raise that issue of, you know, some of the U.S. congressmen, like we saw last night on X, U.S. Congressman Troy E. Nels tweeting on social media that he has introduced the Afrikaner Act, and this act is a pathway to, you know, Afrikaners actually going to the U.S. to flee from what they call the prosecution. But let's just take this, you know, conversation to the EFF spokesperson, MsaneThembi. MsaneThembi, thank you so much for joining us on SABC News. I think it's, you know, this day, the Reclamation Day, comes at a very important time, especially with what we've been seeing in the country, the misinformation that's been peddled about certain minority groups in the country.
Well, for us as the EFF, the Land Reclamation Day means a lot, especially we are here today in Sophia Town because you know that the people of Sophia Town were dispossessed by the Group Areas Act, which was signed into law in around 1950. So for us as the EFF, we want to assure the people of South Africa that we want expropriation of land without compensation, and we are not ashamed of that. We have been calling for that and will continue to call for that, not this disguise of something that South Africa wants to call expropriation of land without compensation.
Debbie, it also comes at a pivotal time. I mean, Griselda also mentioned it, I mentioned it, where you've got certain U.S. congressmen, you've got the likes of Ronnie Jackson introducing the U.S.-South African Bilateral Relations Review Act of 2025. We also saw last night U.S. Congressman Troy E. Nels on social media posting about the Afrikaner Act. I mean, what is the EFF's reaction to this?
Well, we remain adamant that the USA is peddling misinformation, knowing very well that the USA is in charge of information, so there's no way that they don't know what is truly happening in South Africa. And they were given a leeway as Afrikaners to go and be refugees in America. Why are they not leaving? Because who in your right mind would ever leave a country where you are living lavishly, you use black people as cheap labor, you have generational wealth that you inherited by dispossession of black people and through blood. So as the EFF will continue to say that expropriation of land without compensation and not this disguise that we have, because Donald Trump needs to know the truth that as Africans in South Africa, we want our land.
In regards to the tariff hikes imposed, I mean, South Africa is one of the countries, you know, that have paid the brunt of that. Do you think that South Africa should retaliate?
Well, we should retaliate, especially because if you look at the AGOA, it benefits the capitalists in South Africa. It does not benefit South Africans as much as it should. We should look at doing trades with our BRICS countries. We should look at other measures on how we can do trading, because Trump is flaunting his power around, thinking that African countries are so dependent on him. We need to also make sure that the African Continental Free Trade Agreement gets implemented into action.
Another hot potato, Thembi, is the issue of the fiscal framework. We've seen the Democratic Alliance taking the issue to court. I know that the EFF have questioned the legality of the report. Will you be joining, you know, the litigation?
We don't join the DA. We'll do what is suitable for the people of South Africa as the economic freedom fighters. The DA is part of the problem. They sit in. They make the rules. Now they want to come and grandstand and make it as if they were not part of the negotiations.
And hypothetically speaking, we know that, you know, negotiations are still ongoing about the future of the DA. We heard yesterday Party President John Steenhuisen saying that some business leaders have written to them and President Cyril Ramaphosa to ensure that they make, you know, the GNU work. Let's just say the DA decides to exit the GNU. Will that be an opportunity for the EFF to enter?
The The EFF will only join the GNU if it seeks to benefit the people of South Africa, but not to compromise South Africans with what we've just seen, flaunting the laws of South Africa, not following processes with the budget process, actually forcing Parliament to adopt to a budget which most of the parties represented in Parliament do not represent.
And just lastly about today's program, I do understand that other leaders of the EFF will be around the country. Just talk us through those logistics and perhaps the times where they'll be addressing the constituencies.
The Secretary General is currently in the Western Cape, District 6, where you know that some of the colored Indian South Africans were dispossessed and thrown away into Gwalanga in Khayelitsha. So he'll be in the Western Cape and will be addressing around 12 o'clock, the same time as the Commander-in-Chief here in Sophiatown.
Thembi, thank you so much. Well, Griselda, you've got the program for today. Of course, the Secretary General, like Thembi had said, will be in the Western Cape around 12 o'clock, and we expect the President of the EFF, Mr. Julius Malema, to address attendees here at the Sophiatown Extreme Park around 12 noon. With that said, it's back to you.